Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to A Breath of Fresh Footy. This is another episode that's featuring a club that I think is coming up and in leaps and bounds, who I actually expected to do much better a couple of seasons ago and last season, but they're finally nailing it. And of course, it's the fantastic Everton Football Club. Their win over the weekend, 5-2, was absolutely sensational, and Rodriguez was an absolute star. But before we start, I'd love to introduce my really good friend, Shehan. I haven't seen him for yonks. We used to go to school together, and it's always a pleasure to catch up with, old school friends who love footy and are passionate about who they support. So welcome, Shehan, today. And I hope that you're really excited to see what's going on with your Everton team, because that was a really superb performance over on the weekend.
Thanks for having me, Maddie. Honoured to join your show. You're doing very well so far. And I suppose there's lots of optimism around the way Everton's playing at the moment. I'd like to keep myself a bit grounded, I suppose, because as you rightly pointed out, it's been around for a few years. Like, everyone expects us to start well. This year we've gone 3 from 3 with the win in the League Cup as well. So things are looking good so far, and let's hope they continue.
Well, absolutely. But I think one thing that's a big plus for Everton this year at the moment is the signing of Rodriguez. I think James Rodriguez is a huge
Absolutely.
A club of a working class club like I call Everton. And that's why we've loved them. We can go back and talk about, Moyes for a little bit, and then we can continue this conversation with the fact that Moyes brought in this working class ethic, but the team was very successful with him, and he was able to bring in big names like Cahill, because Cahill was a big name at that time. He was a superstar, and he was able to keep this football really compact, really working class, but very effective, because it's a very British style of football.
Yeah, I think if you look back at Everton's history, like, we're the 5th most successful club in England, but it's been 25 years since we've won a trophy. So I suppose when Moyes came in, we're sort of going up and down a little bit, in and out of relegation zones and lots of battles like that. Moyes brought a lot of stability to the club at that stage. When he left, I suppose Martinez came in and he kicked on a little bit. We finished 5th in his first year. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for him. And then we had, I think it was Ronald Koeman after that, who came in. He also came in with promise after doing well at Southampton. I think his first season he did well, finished 8th, and then he sort of had a really bad season. Then probably the darkest time I've had an Everton supporter, when Sam Allardyce took over as caretaker manager. He brought your mate Theo Walcott with him. I think that was a January signing. And then eventually he got sacked, obviously, as well. And then Marco Silva came in. Again, we're expecting more when he came in, and that didn't work out. And then I think probably the turning point for me was last year when Ancelotti got appointed and he knew we meant business.
Yeah, it's you guys being a big club and picking up a big club manager who wants to run the club in a way that's really effective with its transfers, but he specifically targets pinpoint places. So where Rodriguez plays in your team, it's a huge coup to get somebody like him, because he's got absolutely fabulous skill. He's really quick, but he's very good with his brains, so he makes really clear decisions when he's under pressure. And, the game with West Brom over the weekend, which was so fabulous, was that I thought West Brom actually played better than you for the first 35 minutes watching the game. They deserved their lead. But Rodriguez's skill and the way he was able to command that midfield in particular, and then kick his own goal because he commanded it and got the space and absolutely kicked a world-class goal. I think that's a huge difference to the Everton teams that I've seen over the last 5 years. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So I suppose the formation's changed a little bit, the way we're playing with Rodriguez in the team. Last year, I suppose we were playing more of a 4-4-2, and I suppose Theo Walcott would start on the right. We'd have Bernard on the left, and Bernard would sort of come in and play that number 10 role behind Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin. Whereas this year, it's more of a standard 4-3-3 with those, I suppose, the 2 new midfielders we brought in, Allen and Doucouré, in the middle with Gomez. And then Rodriguez sort of starts on the right, but as you pointed out, like, he comes in a lot. He comes into the middle, and the way he took his goal, it was one touch, I believe.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But also with Rodriguez and one other player, Richarlison, I love him. What you can do is you can actually play a 3-4-3.
Yeah. I'll just show you my back quickly, Maddie. So we've got Richarlison on the back here. So
absolutely smashing it on the weekend with all of his runs.
He's been very unlucky not to score so far, but the signs are very promising. And I think him and Calvert-Lewin, like Calvert-Lewin's obviously had a great start to the year, but they're both definitely benefiting from having better players around them.
But what did Lewin have to do on the weekend? Literally, he tapped 3 goals in. Really, let's face it. It was the work of Richard and Rodriguez that really just makes his life easy. And I mean, if he's going to be tapping goals in, he's going to kick a lot of goals this year. You know what I mean?
But as a striker, I suppose that's what you want. You want to finish the chances, let the midfield do the work. I was thinking back a few years ago when Koeman was in charge and Calvert-Lewin was starting some games as a right wing back, and obviously his natural position's up front, finishing those chances. And I think I saw a heat map of Calvert-Lewin's start to the season compared to last season. He's spending a lot more time in the box, whereas last season he was sort of a little bit outside the box, coming, getting the ball, helping the defence out. But now he can focus on what he does best, and that's finishing chances.
Yeah, absolutely. But I see the first time in a long time with Everton, your X factors in the midfield, which is really fantastic. All you need to do, all I can see over the weekend you guys need to do is strengthen a little bit more in the back line. And I swear you will be a force to be reckoned with, because it's like, I talk about brick walls, and I think what Arsenal have done this year has been fantastic, is that they've built now a brick wall at the back. I mean, if we out transfers, we're going to start building a brick wall in the midfield. So you guys have done it the opposite way. You've built this brick wall in the midfield, and they're really, really quick. And so they're able to counter-attack from the midfield. So your defenders are doing a lot less. So you now will expect a lot more from your defenders if it gets through that midfield, because only class moves are going to get through your midfield with Rodriguez in there.
Yeah.
So if you could strengthen your backline, I reckon the Merseyside, the derby, is going to be the best derby this year in terms of quality of football. Because
it's been a long time since we've won a derby, so it would be nice to finally get one over them.
I reckon you'll really give them a good crack. And what I want to say is that I think the best move Everton have done in the last 10 years is get Ancelotti as a manager.
I agree.
You guys must have been completely over the moon.
I was stoked. Like, obviously, signing James Rodriguez was huge, and I couldn't believe we got a player of his calibre. But you look at Ancelotti, he's won Champions Leagues, he's won league titles basically everywhere he's gone. He's just a pure winner, and we got him.
Yeah, but also play European football. This is what Moyes did really well. Even though you might not have played Champions League, you're playing Europa League football. And for a team like Everton, it's very important. People laugh at me when I say, they go, why would you want to play Europa League? But Everton, if they can play Europa League, that guarantees them at least 20 to 30 million pounds, which they can spend in transfers, and they can bolster their squad, because they're not as wealthy, let's say, as Liverpool or Arsenal and Man United. That's not the ethos of the club. They've got money, but I mean, they will not have that sort of money. So making Europe is really, really important for you guys to bolster your transfer market. However, this season, you're teaching the big clubs how to transfer, because at the moment, Arsenal's transfer, Manchester United's has been an utter joke, and I've actually done an excellent job. So you must have...
I think one of your signings, though, Gabriel, we were actually looking at him, but it got leaked. I think we're looking at him pre-COVID, before everything went into lockdown. Then the deal got leaked, and then he decided wants to go elsewhere. So I suppose what you're getting at in terms of strengthening our defence, that was one thing I suppose we were looking at. We're still looking at it. Mason Holgate, who's probably our best central defender, he's injured at the moment. And if we lose one more, we're pretty stuffed. So I think we're trying to bring in Tomori from Chelsea on loan as well. So that should help things.
But I mean, what you've done now by these signings, even though you might have weaknesses in the defence, and I agree, Gabriel was a huge coup for us because we really needed to strengthen that area. However, what you've done finally is that you've made a squad very, very attractive to winning cups, which is if you can do well in a League Cup in particular, or an FA Cup, and that gets you into Europe, that's just much more money for the club. And it means that you can transfer better, because people will go, oh, Everton's a trophy-winning club. We want to go there.
Exactly. I think the money aspect for us, it's not really a concern. So Farhad Mashiri's got a lot of money behind him. We also have Usmanov backing us, who was backing Arsenal for a bit. So there's a lot of money behind the scenes. But I think one thing we have to keep in mind is financial fair play. And if we're not finishing top 6 and getting into Europe, then it limits the amount we can spend, because we're not demonstrating success. I think another thing with Ancelotti coming in is that he attracted players like Allen and James Rodriguez, because some of the other rumoured managers who we've been rumoured to get over previous few years, like Eddie Howe, Sean Dyche. Like, I don't think James Rodriguez is going to want to play for Sean Dyche. No offense to him, he's done a good job there, but
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. You know, you need to keep relevant with Liverpool. You can't afford to let their gap widen even further. And them winning the league last year, and what happened to you guys, you know, earlier on with then you got
yeah, we're in the relegation zone for a long time. Yeah,
they knew straight away they had to put money in there. But I mean, Usmanov is a fantastic person to have on your board. He's put in a lot of money into the team. But I mean, again, you know, you can only grow your club so much, you know, but you need to regain that history. As you're saying, it's the most successful club in England, but you can't go 25 years without winning a cup. You can't do that because you need success. You need to breed that culture within your club. But I mean, looking at the weekend, I think it's great that you're dispatching teams 5-2. It's about time. You haven't.
Yeah, exactly. Usually we'd go 1-0 down. We were pretty lucky not to go 2-0 down. I think Livermore hit the post as well. But to show the ability to come back, and like now our front third, we're so fluid there as well with these additional midfielders and just providing confidence to the strikers. It's a lot better than things were last season when we were struggling to score goals in some games.
But there's an interesting thing that I've seen in the first two games with you guys. What you guys do really well in Everton, and I haven't seen this for a long time, is that when you play poorly, it's like you normally just never get into first gear. But all of a sudden, something goes right, and boom, you get into this third gear, fourth gear, and you're absolutely punishing over the weekend, which was great. I haven't seen that since the Cahill days because
I think might be sounding like a broken record here, but a lot of it has to do with these new additions because last year I suppose we had players like Tom Davies, Davian Delph, Gylfi Sigurdsson, who was good for a period of time, but unfortunately he's lost his legs. Just players like that in midfield, like these players are a step above now, the ones we've brought in.
I'm telling you, those guys that you mentioned, they're not good enough to be.
Yeah, I agree. If we want to be a top club, we have to do better, and the players we brought in are better.
Well, Everton should always, in my opinion, with the stature of your club, should always be aiming for the top 8. Or every you should be aiming. So you should be right on the doorstep of Europe. And the fact that you haven't and you've been finishing 10th, 11th, 12th is really, really not good for the club. So I've got a feeling this year, I've backed you in my top 6. Definitely. I think you guys can pick Spurs. I think Spurs is a broken record. And I think the problem with them is they've had a very excellent time with Pochettino, but they haven't won any trophies. It's going to be very, very detrimental for them. So now with your signings, if you can plug away and plug these little holes, it doesn't matter. It can take 2 years. It really doesn't matter. Just work one major transfer in the defence, maybe in January. Maybe one extra forward, you know, in next season, you know, in the summer. I mean, you start plugging these holes away, you're going to have a really, really good squad. And then you can start adding to your depth, you know, because this is what you're going to need. If you're going to start competing back in Europe, you're going to need a squad, a double squad or a 2.5 squad. And I think Ancelotti is the right man. He's very tactical. He's very, very smart with what he does. But also, in that game, I love the fact that when things weren't going right, you can see him on the sidelines. He's this really calm, collected coach, you know, and the West Brom coach just lost his mind when Kieran Gibbs absolutely smacked Rodriguez in the face, and he couldn't. But that's the thing. That's the difference with your squad quality this year. Those lower teams now fear you more. So they're trying to get into your best players because they think the only way they can beat Everton is to shut down Rodriguez, you know. And this is where Richarlison will be really handy because I hope that a lot of the players actually start targeting Rodriguez, allow players like Richarlison to really shine because they're going to have a lot more freedom, you know.
Yeah.
This is where the midfield thing is fantastic with this brick wall because once you start attracting a lot of players towards your midfield, there's going to be a lot of space in front, there's going to be a lot of space behind. So hopefully your defence has time to be able to make better decisions, you know what I mean? So,
and I think what you'll notice with James Rodriguez as well, he thrives having the ball. So he'll call for the ball from wherever and he can make something out of nothing. I think it was the 4th or 5th goal where he chipped that ball over the top for Richarlison, who sent it to Calvert-Lewin. But just something like that is something we've been lacking for years. And just to have that like creative player, we've been lacking that for so long. So it's great to have him there.
Yeah, well, one-touch football. The best teams, the best Arsenal teams that we ever saw, even when they were in their banter era near the end of Wenger, whenever they played really well, it was always one-touch football. And I've known Everton over the last few years to way overuse the ball. But it's finally excellent to see you guys with a lot of speed. Like you are a very quick team. You're very strong. And I think they're doing well with the recruiting in the sense that they're starting to get a much more, a layer of different heights within the team as well, which is really, really good. So I'm expecting, Lewin to have an excellent year in front of goals. I think he's going to kick an absolute bag full. Where do you think you guys are going to finish this year in terms of like seeing what's happened with the transfer market?
Yeah, I think top six should be the aim. I'm not so sure that we'll get there, just depending on, I suppose this happens with every team, right? If you cop an injury or two, you don't know what's going to happen. But I think at minimum top eight, probably with the squad we have, that should be we should finish around there. But I'd like to finish top six.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that you guys really need to do, I mean, if you come to this stage in the year where you do get some injuries, you've got X-factor players that can really shine in cup because all you have to do is beat a team once. You don't have to play all of the boys. I mean, you really need to show up and do something in those cups in particular and get yourself back into Europe somehow,
Yeah, exactly. I think even for the fans, winning something like the Carabao Cup, it's not a big cup, but just as we've mentioned, it's been 25 years, just give the fans something to hold on to and something to move forward with.
Yeah, but I mean, let's do the facts last year. What teams won cups last year in England? Man City, Carabao Cup.
Yeah.
Liverpool, the Premier League, and Arsenal FA Cup. I mean, there's only 3 teams that win it. It's really
exactly. Yeah.
So, but with Ancelotti, man, I'm petrified. I'm petrified for Arsenal to play.
I think that'll be a good game because it's interesting because you guys had the chance to get Ancelotti, but you went the other way and got Arteta. And I maybe thought that maybe we might have been potentially a chance for Arteta, given he's a young manager looking to cut his teeth. He wouldn't want to go to the top club straight away and, I suppose, get burnt. But the way things worked out, I suppose we might both be happy in the end.
Well, I can't believe somebody like Arteta won a cup within 7 months of being there. But also,
well, you guys were, yeah.
But also with Arsenal, I think what they really need with that squad is they're trying to bring the players a lot closer together because as you can see, with Emery and with what happened at the end of Wenger's time, the squad drifted apart quite a fair way and there's been these little cliques within the club. So Arteta's come in and brought back that sort of family aspect, sort of gel within the team, which is what we've needed. I don't know if Ancelotti could have done that. He would have had to have done a lot more with a higher team, a bigger squad like Arsenal and the prestige that Arsenal has. I don't think he would have been able to do what he's done at Arsenal as what he's been able to do with Everton. And I think it's the fact that with the supporters that you've got there, you guys understand it's not a 1-year fix.
Yeah.
5 to 6 year process. Whereas with Arsenal, for the fans to actually see progress, they need to see some sort of trophy that's won. So then they can see, okay, so this manager means something. They've done it with this squad. Okay, we can give them a couple of years leniency. And that's what killed Emery in the end because he didn't win the Europa.
They expected too much straight away, right?
They always do. But that's the club. And hopefully one day when you guys get back to being that big club status, you guys can expect the same with your squad.
Yeah, exactly. And I think where Emery probably fell short as well was he had Wenger before him, so he's sort of replacing a legend. And the same thing's happened at Man United since Sir Alex retired. So just replacing these legendary managers isn't easy, and the fans get used to a certain level of play. Even though I suppose at the end it didn't work out as well for Wenger, but he just replaced a legend.
But the thing that's different between you guys compared to us two, your owners actually care about what you're doing. Ours don't. Well, worse. They take so much money out of that club.
You guys got the American owners, right?
Yeah, but Kroenke, he doesn't put anything in, doesn't really take a huge amount out. So we, as supporters, we're pretty peeved off about it. But we know at least our money when we buy merchandise and we buy season tickets and things, that all goes towards the club. So then when we sell players, we don't like it, but we understand why the club's selling players. So that's why there's not things that are happening with United where the fan base has just completely lost their nana. I mean,
Yeah.
you have an owner that cares. Usmanov was the best thing you guys could have done in the last.
Yeah, so I suppose he's sort of pulling the strings behind the scenes. He's pumping a lot of money in. We're moving into a new stadium in a few years. It's very likely that he'll have the naming rights for that stadium. I think he's paid 5 or 10 million for the option to name the stadium. So you can tell he's pumping money in somehow within financial fair play, I suppose. But we're lucky to have his backing. We probably haven't seen the extent of it yet. So I'm hoping, I suppose, as we've mentioned, like 5-6 years' time, we'll be drawing these top caliber players, even better than James Rodriguez, arguably, to the club. But that's very much in the future. I mean, that's my hope for the club.
Oh, no, I definitely see it. And it comes from the top, and we can see that the top at Everton are working really hard. And I think, a move away from you guys from Goodison Park is actually going to be an excellent thing, because you can start building a fortress at your new home, which is what you've needed to do. I mean, last year, your record at Goodison Park was actually quite terrible.
Yeah, I think it's always been a strength of ours, though. Like, they used to call Goodison Park the fortress. Under Moyes, we rarely lost there. I think under Koeman's first season, we're very strong. And we've just lost it, though. But I think the new stadium, in terms of commercial opportunities as well, will be huge for us.
Yeah. So what I think you guys need to do, and I know very much what a club goes through when they go and get a new stadium. I've seen it with Arsenal. It's now for you guys. It's just plucking the holes slowly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pluck the right players. So somebody like Ancelotti, I love it because he doesn't always need a huge amount of money to be able to make a club good.
Yeah.
So if you guys over the next 5 to 6 years just fill in 1 or 2 players each season with the transfer market, as I was saying, and bolster your squad like this. I mean, Rodriguez is only 28. Didn't he win in 2014 the Golden Boot in the World Cup?
Yeah, in the World Cup. Yeah, that's when he came onto the scene. And if you look at like some of the transfer market news, originally it was reported that we paid 20 million for him, but it was actually he came across on a free. That shows you the pull of Ancelotti.
Unbelievable, but he just hasn't played. Whenever he plays with Ancelotti, he's incredible.
Yeah.
But no other manager seems to have been able to use him properly. And
and I think you look at, I suppose, Zidane at Real Madrid, like James fell out of favour there, Gareth Bale fell out of favour, so maybe it's something to do with the manager there, but you know what, their loss is our gain.
Oh, absolutely, but I mean, look at Barcelona. Look at Dembele, had an awful season over there as well. Griezmann had a terrible season in Barcelona. It just shows you that you really need your working class players to make your X Factor players shine, because they then take all the pressure, absorb it, and your X Factor players can then shine. Or it works the other way. The X Factor players get a lot more attention, but then your working class players, for once, have freedom and they can make really excellent decisions.
Yeah.
They can play to their strengths. Some can kick with the long ball. Some can run really quickly. Some can just be a tall presence and just head of the ball. I mean, that's the beauty. I'm sad you guys who didn't get Gabriel, because if you had managed to get him as well, your spine would be unreal,
I think you would have noticed a few times in the weekend, Yerry Mina was caught tailing the forwards and the wingers, and that cost us our first goal. The second goal was an excellent free kick, but that first goal, he really dropped the ball there. But I think, one more central defender, and once Holgate's back, we should be good.
Yeah, but, for you guys, it doesn't matter so much at the moment because you're not playing as much footy because you're not in Europe at the moment. You can just slowly strengthen your squad. I mean, if you guys focus on one cup, get out of the other one as quickly as you can, or play a strong team, and if you end up playing somebody like Liverpool or Man City and you get beaten, I mean, it's not going to be a huge problem because you then can focus on the EPL and one of the cups. And it means
So in the Carabao Cup, we've sort of been playing our B team, which still has players like Davies and Sigurdsson, who I suppose aren't near the first team now, but they're probably good enough against League Two teams, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. I'm so sad about because we have to play Leicester tonight in the Carabao.
We've got Swindon Town, so
oh man,
a bit of a different challenge. But knowing Everton, we'll probably lose this one. You guys will beat Leicester.
I don't know though. I see just something very different with the team. I really do. The first 2 matches, I was like, yeah, you guys are going to actually be the real deal. And I think it's finally you've been able to strengthen an area in the field to make it well. I think you have a world-class midfield. Honestly,
Yeah.
very, very, very happy to say Everton has a world-class midfield.
That's a big call, Matty.
Well, like you do. I mean, it's so good with Rodriguez in the team. It's so solid. He can be that general. It's about time.
Yeah, I think Allen's been a really underrated signing for us, sort of as that defensive midfielder playing that number 6 role. So probably haven't seen a player like him who can pass and play that defensive role probably since Gareth Barry, who when he came across, I think he was 31, 32, but he did a good job for us for 2 or 3 years. But we had Idrissa Gana sort of in between Barry and Allen in that time, and he could break up the play very well, but he wasn't as good as passing the ball. I think the issue with our midfield now is you've got Allen, Doucouré, Gomez there, and all 3 of them sort of like getting forward. So there needs to be some talk between them, or maybe Ancelotti needs to focus on telling one of them to sort of sit back and play that number 6 role, and the other 2 can go forward. Because I think that's part of the issue that we had on the weekend, was that players were sort of breaking through our midfield because everyone would be caught forward.
Yeah.
But that's more I suppose, technical side thing. Like, these guys are great players and they'll work it out.
Yeah, I think one thing as well, I think Ancelotti's going to be happy to see that rather than the other way, because you guys have been so slow. He's just saying to them, play with abandonment, just go forward.
Yeah, exactly. Really. And we look so great going forward as well. Even the fullbacks, Diaz, he's always been a good player for us. But Seamus Coleman, he's been a bit down since he broke his leg 3 or 4 years ago. But this year, he's looked like a new player. I think he's 32 now, but I think Ancelotti said he can play till he's 40 the way he's going at the moment, which is a big endorsement for him. Yeah. And he's always been a player's coach as well. So I think that's why we're seeing a lot of these players playing with confidence.
Well, I mean, what happens if you guys don't have a CDM that's defensive this year? He can just go into the transfer market in January and go, okay, let's get somebody who's much more defensive minded.
Yeah, I think Allen's been brought in to play that role. It's more, maybe it's underestimating the opponent a little bit as well, because against Spurs, he was sort of sitting back a bit more, but against West Brom, he was a lot more forward.
You guys should have battered Spurs 3-0.
Yeah, we looked very good in that game. I actually think we looked better in that game. Hamed's probably on an individual level looked better against West Brom, but against Spurs, I think, like looking at Doucouré winning the ball, charging forward, things like that got me really excited.
Oh, they looked like a second-rate team. It was
they were terrible.
It was fabulous. I loved every minute of it. But it just shows you can't win now. I don't think you can win a Premier League playing Jose Mourinho style. I think the game from that.
And I think you look at these 2 defensive midfielders, it was Harry Winks and Højbjerg, like that's not good enough.
No.
They did look better, I suppose, on the weekend against Southampton, but Southampton, their defence is in all sorts as well. So I don't know if that's a bit of a false dawn for Spurs.
No, but I'm telling you, Southampton should have been 3-0 ahead.
Yeah, Jay Adams missed a lot of chances, yeah.
Well, look, if West Brom had kicked those 2 goals, it could have been a very different game, and I could always see you guys coming back. Seriously, if Southampton had kicked 3, there's no chance.
They would have been dead because they lost 2-0 to us, and then being 3-0 down against another team, like, we just shattered them.
Oh, you guys have I much prefer your team compared to Spurs. I think Spurs.
I'm not surprised by that.
I think Spurs, the problem with them is that they just don't get how to win. They really, really don't. I mean, let's be honest, Spurs have been much better than Everton over the last 7 or 8 years. They've had a much better squad. They've had a much better academy. And they actually had a very, very good coach. And the problem with their coach is that he decided he wanted to drink champagne rather than drink water. Should have actually have won a cup in England as soon as he could with that squad. Because as soon as he would have done that, I guarantee you, if they'd made Champions League, they would have been so nervous. You know what I mean? Because they that experience of playing in a final, and they know what a final is. It's a do or die game. You have to turn up on that moment. So you can be brilliant all the way, in everything that you do. You can play brilliantly in the EPL, but cup finals are a completely different beast because you don't have that in the EPL. You know what I mean? You don't play a final. So you need to turn up to those things. And by having no experience like that, I mean, it's terrible that they haven't won a cup, and I can't see them with Mourinho doing any better.
It's interesting the way he loses some players as well. Like Dele Alli's rumored to be moving to PSG now, and I think what Spurs are lacking is creativity in the midfield, and he's probably one of their most creative midfielders. But it'll be interesting as well when Bale comes in, where he's going to play, how that's going to affect Son. Obviously, Kane's playing up front, but just how that's going to fit in. I think Bale's probably a way off match fitness as well.
He's injured at the moment. He's injured.
Yeah, exactly.
But Bale should have gone to Man United. Bale should never have gone back to a club where he was so successful. You know what I mean? He should have gone to a big club. He should have tried to do something. Because, I mean, if Man United had Bale in their team, it would be a huge difference because they have no creativity, you know?
Yeah, I suppose with Man United, though, they're not really the top club anymore, are they? Like, you look at the top clubs in the EPL, it's Man City and Liverpool. So they're in that next tier, arguably with Spurs.
They're just... The thing is with Man United, man, they play such a rubbish thing of football. But they act like a big club. They've won in the last 3 years. They've won FA Cups. They've won a treble with Mourinho, even though it was the crap treble. They still won a treble with him.
Treble's a treble, yeah.
But that's the thing. What do the big clubs do? They win the trophies, man. So, you know, it's time. It's time for Everton to step up on the mark.
I want to step up, yeah.
I want to see you guys absolutely crush Liverpool. That would be so...
I don't want to talk that up because I've just been burnt too many times.
I reckon you can give them a good crack this year. If you get your strategy correct with them and you don't decide to play a 4-3-3, but you do like a 3-5-2 and let Rodriguez just simmer around in that, you know, if you park the bus a little bit, let him simmer around, let him feel what's...
Yeah, to be honest, I think our issue has been parking the bus at Anfield. So Goodison, a few of the games have been 0-0 the last few years, but at Anfield, we sort of park the bus and they just pull us apart. Might have been Silva's last game last year. He might have got a few after that, but we got absolutely smashed by them last year.
But I think with them this year, if they hadn't had Thiago come in, Alcondra come in, you've seen what Arsenal have done to them. You've seen what Leeds have done. They've played out from the box, and they've been able to play out through the midfield and then cross the ball from one side of the field to the other in the final third. And then the person who the ball's been crossed to has been able to kick a great goal because they've been the space.
We've got a few players who can do that now. So you've got James Rodriguez, who can obviously cross the ball, cross field. Digne can do it. Richarlison can do it. Things are looking a lot better for us in that aspect now.
Yeah, but if you decide this year you can park it a little bit more, you don't have to park it so far back because your midfield's really strong. So it can actually be much more further up the field. So you can actually play a higher line and put this pressure on them because you have the quality of players in the midfield finally to be able to match it with them. Because I think with Rodriguez in the midfield, I think Henderson's a great player. Doesn't have the skills that Rodriguez has got. He's a working class player. You know what I mean, Henderson. But Rodriguez has got some sort of X factor, and I'd love to see Richarlison just tear it down the wing, you know?
Well, I suppose those two would sort of pin Alexander-Arnold and Robertson back, like pull them down and make them more accountable so they can't just bomb forward. Like they'll put a lot more fear into those two rather than Walcott and Bernard, so that's going to be a big difference this year.
Yeah, I'm sad you got Walcott when you did. If you had him like 3 or 4 years ago when he was right on top with Arsenal, he would have been so excellent. And
I wouldn't have minded if he was a bit younger, seeing him play through the middle. I think he always wanted to play through the middle with you guys. But now when we see him, I suppose he would just be more of an impact player for us because he sort of just runs to the corner, he runs to the touch line and just turns the ball over.
Yeah, and also Iwobi for me, like he had Arsenal, but he just never got to that, you know, stage where he could play that sort of fake 10 because that's what he used to like to do was try and play fake 10.
Which when we've trialled him there, he's been okay, but it's just we've got so many players who want to play that role that we couldn't put him there.
Yeah, I know, but he could have been a superb player for us, and I really think he got the raw end of the stick with that.
Yeah, I feel bad for Marco Silva with that one because he brought in Richarlison in his first year. In the second year, he wanted Zaha, but he had to settle for Iwobi because Palace wouldn't sell Zaha. So that was a big downgrade there.
Oh, man, I tell you what, everybody bagged Zaha. Man, he was so instrumental against United.
Yeah, he's looking good this year. We've got Palace on the weekend, so I'm a bit worried about that one.
I think he'll do all right. And why I think he'll do okay, even if it's a scrap heap, I have the confidence now that because you guys can turn up with the big teams, it's about beating the minnows, right? Yeah. And by beating West Brom as comfortably as you did, even though when you were challenged, you know, you still.
Yes, those were the games we were dropping. You're right.
Yeah, I see that. Like, look, if it's a 3-1 or 3-2 scrap and you guys pull through, that's the best signs for your club that you've seen in the last 5 years. If you can really scrap a win through like that, I hope you don't. I hope you actually beat them like.
Yeah, I'd prefer a clean sheet, like we were talking about offline. Like we can't rely on scoring 5 goals every game and conceding 2. So my preference would be in like a 1 or 2-0 win rather than a 3-1 or a 4-2 or something.
Absolutely. But I mean, look, if you can scrap those games this year, you're going to be very much well on your way to getting into that top echelon, that top.
Yeah.
And it's about getting the points on the board as early as you can because.
Yeah, agree. We're not going to be in the drop zone, hopefully, this December.
I don't think so. And if you are in the drop zone, either something's really wrong with Anthony or
half the team's injured or, yeah.
in the club. You know what I mean? Like within the player group. There should be no reason why you guys are below 8th position. There should be no reason. No, seriously.
You're backing us in more than me, Matty.
No, well, I see the change. Like I really enjoyed the footy that I saw. I really enjoyed that positive intent. I really liked seeing the fact that when you guys weren't playing your best, you were still able to find a way to score, which is great because then you can bucket. But then the fact is, when they kicked that free kick when it was 2-2, I was like, oh no, here we go again.
Yeah, same old Everton. Yeah.
Hold on, 3 goals within like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You haven't done that for such a long time.
Yeah. And that's the thing, in the front half, there's just so many options now. And like in previous years, there's been no creativity. So we just pass the ball backwards or sideways, whereas now the ball's going forward into dangerous positions.
What's going to happen when Calvert-Lewin decides to have a real ripper game? I mean, you could score 7 goals in a game, you know.
I think 3's a ripper, isn't it?
Oh, but when he actually is on, you know, when there's some...
Yeah, true. He missed a sitter in the second minute or something of this game.
Oh man, if he's like really on song and Rodriguez decides to hit the scoreboard, you guys could actually score 5-6 goals.
Yeah, because he's only 22, 23 as well, so don't know where his ceiling's at, but it's promising so far. I think since maybe Duncan Ferguson took over and Ancelotti, he scored something like 14 goals in 27 games, and he had a really drought period after they started the Premier League season after the lockdown. So if you take that out, he's been in very good form.
Yeah, well, the 14 in 23, if you're saying that, that's Aubameyang form. No, seriously, yes. That's actually Aubameyang form. And I rate him at the moment as the best league striker because we've been rubbish team. And
true.
He scored 20.
He's always scoring, yeah, even off the wing.
29 goals in all competitions with our midfield.
Yeah.
Joking, you know what I mean? Like that, he's got to be the best striker in world football because that midfield is so bad. He gets like one chance basically in a game to kick a goal, basically, you know, via our statistics, and he just slams it. So it's incredible. Like, and if your striker is doing the same thing with those sort of figures, I mean, he's absolutely blitzed.
Yeah, and now he's got a better midfield behind him, so you'd think the figures will improve more now.
I'm very excited for you guys. That's why I wanted to get you on because I thought you'd be actually very excited this year to see something.
It's cautious optimism from me, I think. It just after the few previous years when we started poorly and then sort of come up and finish mid-table. But I think this year things look a lot better.
I'm going to be the optimist because
someone has to be.
No, I'm going to. I think you guys play a exciting brand of football. I wish we played it at Arsenal. I wish we had a midfield that was like yours, that was creative. I think it's fantastic. The only difference I feel with Arsenal at the moment is our just having Gabriel there is a huge difference. That's the only thing I can see. And I think our front three may be potentially a bit stronger with Aubameyang and Lacazette, but our midfield has nothing on you guys. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be very, very cool. And before I get you, before we call it an evening or an afternoon or a morning, and you're watching a breath of fresh footy, remember to subscribe on YouTube and to subscribe on my Facebook page. We're going to give you all of the goss of the EPL, the Carabao Cup, and of course, you know, the FA Cup during the year. I want to get Shehan's top 6. Who do you think is going to be the top 6 this year?
Never thought this far ahead, Matty.
That's all right. You can take your time.
Oh, I'll probably have Man City first. I think they'll bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
Liverpool won't be far off in second. Oh, who are we going to have third? I don't know if you guys are quite there yet.
No.
I think potentially when Chelsea pull it all together, they might be third.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth, maybe we can go you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Who am I missing?
No,
Some of the big clubs.
fifth and sixth, I don't know. Where do you reckon? So Spurs, I reckon it's going to be between.
Spurs are going to drop down a bit, I think. I'm not having them up that high.
Very good. So I think it's going to be between. This is my thought. It's going to be between Leicester, Wolves, you guys, and Spurs.
I was thinking the same too. Leicester and Wolves. I watched Leicester replay against Burnley on the weekend. They look pretty good. The right back they signed from Atalanta, Castagna, he looks very good getting forward. And if Vardy can keep it up, maybe they can sneak into fifth. Maybe I'll go ask for sixth. I'll put some optimism in.
Wow. Okay. So very, very, very close. Like I had United, but I hadn't seen what United played like, and boy, they were.
Yeah.
They were
I think their defence is definitely worse than ours. Theirs is one of the worst in the Prem at the moment.
What the hell was Roth doing on the week? What was he doing? Not even. He just stands there. It's useless. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a scarecrow.
A scarecrow does a better job because.
True. At least they're taking up space.
Oh my God! It's a beanstalk. That's what he is. You know. He's standing there. All right, so I'm going to put you on the spot now. Bottom three. From what you've seen.
Oh, from what I've seen, you're going to have Man United there? Or?
Oh, you more.
Still very early. I think usually you've got to send some promoted teams down. I think maybe Leeds might stay up.
Yep.
So I might send Fulham and West Brom down. And this is a tough one. Maybe Aston Villa. Time's up for them.
Yeah, the one thing that I worry about them, not for staying, not for going down, I reckon they're going to stay up is because they've got our keeper. They've got Emmy Martin.
Yeah, true.
Did you see that save that he did on the penalty?
Oh, incredible, yeah.
Oh, it's just, it didn't even look like he moved. It's just like gone boom, like this. Doesn't even look like, it looked slow. It looked really slow. I'm devastated he's out of our
I think the issue is he's going to see so many shots that can't save all of them, really.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I see it. My one was Brighton, but I mean, I see Villa, I see West Ham. I see a lot of those teams struggling.
Yeah, West Ham look in early trouble as well.
I agree. So, and Golden Boot. Who's going to be your Golden?
I'm going to back my man in Calvert-Lewin.
Why not? Why not? It's already scored 3. I mean,
he's got 4. He's leading at the moment.
That's right. Yeah, you're right. But I mean, yeah, Son just scored 4 on the weekend. But I mean, yeah.
I don't think he'll do that again.
I reckon that's a good tip, actually. That would be.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. Yeah, and I reckon.
I think others who'll be up there. Obviously, got Alba, Jimenez, Vardy, the usual suspects.
What about Salah and Mane? I mean,
Salah and Mane will be there. I feel like they might take a slight drop this year, though. Because the other one they signed was Jota, so when he starts, he might play between those two, and they might have to share the ball a bit more and give him a bit more.
Oh, that's
ball, and he might score a bit. Whereas Firmino is more of that's like I suppose unselfish player between them.
Firmino is just a boss. Like I was on the podcast with Ponna and Shnu last night, and my mate Phil. And like we were talking about Firmino, and who he reminded us of was Mark Viduka, just this presence, a big body, just taking the ball, being tough, and just he's so good with his footwork.
And he's so pivotal to their success. I think if they lost him, like that'll be a huge loss for them.
Oh, massive. It's like company for Man City. Huge loss.
Yeah.
Wasn't like the most flashy of footballers, but boy, he was effective, you know? Like he's Firmino's even higher level because he's got this Brazilian magic with him. So he's this working class player, and then all of a sudden he just does something outrageous, you know, with his
I think that's what we've got sort of in Alan, the defensive midfielder. So he's got that flair about him, but he's also that hard-working player who will break up the play as well. So you need those types of like flair players who can go both ways.
Oh, I think it's going to be a really, really exciting season. I mean, you know, for us, when we describe our top 6, there's a whole lot of teams for the first time in a long time that are going to be up there challenging it. And it's not going to be a big 6 this year again, for sure. Because like last year, Arsenal was out of that 6. And I think this year, Man United's going to be very much out of that. They don't recruit
I
anymore.
haven't got them there either, yeah.
They will be absolutely stuck. Whereas I see for the first time, because we were able to get Gabriel, I see us being able to be in, so.
Yeah, definitely. That was your biggest flaw, definitely, like the defence. So signing someone like him is huge.
Absolutely. So, and Artekas has done a great job. He was a great servant at Everton, and it's the perfect place to leave off. So thank you, Shehan, for being here. I'm really looking forward to Everton and the way that they're playing. And we'll definitely come back and we'll see how they progress in the next couple of weeks. And we'll do another show together and we'll see what Everton is really, really made of this year.
Thanks for having me. I hope we're still doing well when we catch up again.
Oh, I'm sure you will, mate. And this is A Breath of Fresh Footy. I'm Matthew, and we'll see you again really, really soon.